Custom cording is a great way to add detail to your slipcover and make it look custom and not ready-made. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you figure out how much cording you need. What you're going to want to do is measure the areas on your furniture that typically have cording, which would be like the front of the arms, your outside back area, at the top of your skirt where your skirt meets the body of your slipcover, and all around your cushion as well. So you've got the top row of cording on the top of your cushion and the bottom row of cording on the bottom side of your cushion, both on your seats and your backs. So what you'll need to do is measure all those areas, add all those measurements together, and that will give you the total number of inches of cording you need. When you're buying the cording that goes inside the fabric, you're going to want to use a cotton cording for a slipcover, especially if you're going to launder it, and you'll need to buy the same amount of that as you got for your measurement for your number of inches of the cording that you need to make. So let's talk about how I make it. I generally make sure that all my cording is cut on the bias, and using bias cuts allows it to really flow nice around the curves of the arms in our case, turn nicely around the corners of the cushion, and it doesn't get all wonky when it's sitting on there and it looks kind of bumpy, and that's usually if it's not cut on the bias, you'll get that effect. For demonstration purposes, I'm using a 25-inch square fabric here to mark out our cording, but when I do it, I usually use 1.5 yards of fabric. So I have a 54-inch wide fabric by 54 inches cut, which is my 1.5 yards, and I take it and I fold it on the diagonal. So I'll take the cut edge and bring it, the cut edge over here, and bring it to my selvage. And then that will give me this diagonal here, which is my true bias. Then I will take my scissors and I'll just cut along that bias, and then we're going to mark out our pieces to cut. Now from 1.5 yards of fabric, you can get about 1,600 inches of cording. And I know that sounds like an awful lot, but when you start measuring the areas on your sofa that you want to put cording, you'll end up that you come up into at least 1,000 inches in most cases. And I would just take my ruler, lay it across that edge that I've cut for the bias. And I'm using a 2-inch wide ruler. And that's generally what I will use for any cording I'm making, is a 2-inch strip of fabric. So we'll mark this out here. And you can see we've got our nice long strips, and when you're using a 54-inch piece of fabric, these strips will be like 70 inches long or so, which is a nice measurement because you don't end up with a lot of seams in your slipcover cording. So then you just cut along your lines. And the 2 inches is good because when you're putting your slipcover, pinning your slipcover together, you've got plenty of seam allowance to hang on to with your pins. So here you can see we've got our nice long cut strips.